Among all the women invited to the royal ball, everyone believed Prince Daniel would choose a lady of noble birth and beauty. The families tried everything to capture his attention. But the prince's heart had already found someone no one expected, someone the world tried to make invisible. He chose an orphan girl whose own family destroyed her invitation, burned the pieces, and locked her in an attic to prevent her from attending. How did a prince discover a girl hidden from the world? And when he learned what her family had done, why didn't he just send a messenger? Why did he send an entire convoy with guards, carriages, and trumpets to bring her himself? Sit back and find out as we delve into this powerful story. The morning sun has barely touched the Lego skyline when Grace wakes in her tiny room, more closet than bedroom, tucked away in the corner of her aunt's sprawling Ikoyi mansion. While her cousins sleep in their air-conditioned rooms with imported furniture, Grace's space contains only a thin mattress, a wooden stool, and a small mirror with a crack running through the center like a jagged scar. At 22, she's living with her Aunt Beatrice and cousins Diana and Ruth 8 years after losing her parents in a tragic fire. Her daily routine begins before dawn. She moves silently through the house, preparing breakfast for Aunt Beatrice and her cousins, puff puff, akara, and freshly squeezed zobo. She sets the table with the fine china reserved for family, then returns to the kitchen to eat her own meal standing up, using the chipped plates designated for her alone. By 7 a.m., she's already scrubbed the marble floors of the expansive living room, dusted the imported leather furniture, and begun the first load of laundry hand-washing delicate fabrics that her cousins toss carelessly into her arms with barely a glance. Diana and Ruth treat her with casual contempt, like furniture that occasionally speaks. They mock her worn dresses, the same 3 outfits she rotates and mends constantly with threads salvaged from old clothes. "Grace, you're wearing that rag again?" Diana sneers over breakfast, her manicured nails glinting as she waves dismissively. "Don't you have anything decent?" "Oh wait, I forgot you don't." Ruth laughs, spilling her juice deliberately so Grace will have to clean it up. "At least she's good for something," she adds with a cruel smile. Grace keeps her head down, soaking up the spill with a cloth, swallowing the humiliation like she swallows everything else silently, invisibly. Despite this daily cruelty, Grace maintains an extraordinary kindness that seems to come from somewhere deep and unbreakable within her. That afternoon, Aunt Beatrice sends her to the bustling Balagan market to purchase fabric for Diana's upcoming engagement party. The market teems with life traders calling out their wares, customers haggling, the scent of suya and roasted plantain filling the humid air. Grace navigates the crowded stalls with practiced ease, carefully counting the limited money she's been given, knowing she'll be punished if she spends even 10 naira more than instructed. As she waits for the fabric seller to cut the Ankara print Beatrice specified, Grace notices a small boy, perhaps 6 years old, crouched beside a gutter. He's crying quietly, his distended belly visible through his torn shirt. Without hesitation, Grace approaches him. "What's wrong, little one?" she asks softly in Yoruba, kneeling beside him despite her clean dress touching the dirty ground. The boy sniffles, explaining that he hasn't eaten in 2 days, that his mother is sick, that he came to beg but people just shout at him to go away. Grace's heart clenches. She reaches into her pocket where she's kept aside 50 naira for her own lunch money she saved by skipping breakfast and planning to skip dinner. It's all she has. She looks at the boy's hollow eyes, then presses the money into his small palm. "Go buy food," she tells him firmly. "And take some to your mother. Do you know where to go?" The boy nods vigorously, his face transforming with hope, and runs off clutching the precious money. Grace stands, brushing off her dress, knowing she'll be hungry later but feeling strangely full inside. What Grace doesn't notice is the figure watching from across the market, a tall man in simple clothes, a plain white kaftan and dark trousers, a cap pulled low over his face. Prince Michael has been walking among his people in disguise for months now, observing their true characters when they don't know royalty is present. He watches Grace give away her last coins, sees the genuine compassion in her face, notes how she doesn't perform her kindness for an audience but acts because she cannot do otherwise. This is the 3rd time he's seen her help someone. The first was 2 weeks ago when she sat with an elderly man outside a pharmacy, fanning him while he waited for his daughter. The second was when she defended a younger girl being harassed by market boys. Each time, no one was watching except him. That evening, Aunt Beatrice hosts a lavish dinner party for her society friends. Lagos elite dripping in gold jewelry and designer osso ebi. Grace serves the meal jollof rice, grilled fish, plantain, and pepper soup, moving invisibly between the guests as they discuss politics, business deals, and their children's achievements. One guest, a portly businessman named Chief Adeyemi, barely glances at Grace as she refills his glass. "Beatrice," he booms, "your niece seems quite capable. You should hire her out. She'd make an excellent maid for some of our friends." The table erupts in laughter. Beatrice smiles indulgently. "Oh, Grace knows her place, don't you, dear?" Grace nods mechanically, keeping her face carefully neutral even as shame burns in her chest. She continues serving, just another piece of furniture in her aunt's well-decorated home. Inside the magnificent Asoro Palace, Prince Michael sits in the royal study with his closest advisor, Chief Samuel, a dignified elder with grey hair and wisdom etched into every line of his face. Between them on the ornate mahogany desk lies a leather-bound folder containing the preparations for the upcoming ball that will serve as a bride selection event. Chief Samuel turns the pages slowly, pointing to lists of noble families whose daughters are suitable matches. "Your Highness," Chief Samuel begins carefully, "the daughters of Senator Okafor bring political alliances in the southeast. The Ibrahim family controls significant oil interests. The Adelie girl studied at Oxford, impeccable breeding. Each offers strategic advantages to the throne." He slides forward photographs of young women in expensive osso ebi, their smiles practiced and perfect. Michael pushes the photographs away, exhaustion evident in his gesture. "Chief Samuel, my father told me something before he died. Do you remember his last words to me?" The older man nods slowly. "Find someone kind. Someone real." How will I find that in a room full of people performing for my attention? Every woman I meet transforms the moment she knows who I am. Their laughter becomes calculated. Their words become rehearsed. I need someone who is good when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. Chief Samuel sighs deeply. "Your Highness, I understand your heart. Your late father, King David, may his soul rest in peace, felt the same way. But the kingdom expects you to marry soon. Tradition demands it." The council grows restless. Already there are whispers that you're too particular, that you seek something that doesn't exist in real life, only in fairy tales. "Perhaps," Michael concedes, standing to look out the window at the sprawling city below Lagos, with its contradictions of wealth and poverty, progress and struggle, kindness and cruelty all jumbled together. "But I've seen it, Chief Samuel. I've seen genuine kindness. I've walked among our people in disguise for months, watching how they treat each other when they think no royalty is present. And I found her a woman who gives when she has nothing, who helps when no one sees, who carries herself with dignity despite suffering." Chief Samuel's eyebrows rise with interest. "You've found someone? Who is she? What family?" Michael turns from the window, his jaw set with determination. "That's what I intend to discover. But I can't approach her as a prince. She'll change, like everyone else. I need to see her one more time as she truly is. And then..." He pauses, an idea forming. "Then I want personal invitations sent to every eligible woman in the kingdom. Not just noble families. Every household. Every lady. Rich, poor, educated, illiterate, everyone deserves a chance." Chief Samuel nearly drops his folder. "Your Highness, that's unprecedented. The ball will be enormous. There must be thousands of eligible young women in Lagos and the surrounding areas. And inviting commoners to a royal event, the noble families will be offended. They'll say you're diluting the dignity of the crown. The logistics alone are manageable," Michael interrupts firmly. "We have the resources. We have the space. And more importantly, it's just. Why should only the daughters of the wealthy and connected have the chance to meet the prince? Why should birth circumstances determine who gets an opportunity? My father taught me that true nobility is character, not birthright. We will invite everyone, Chief Samuel. I want every eligible woman to receive a formal invitation with her name written in calligraphy. Make it beautiful. Make it official. Make it clear that she matters. Chief Samuel recognizes the tone in Michael's voice, the same unshakable conviction his father possessed. Yes, Your Highness. I'll begin the preparations immediately. It will take several weeks to compile the lists, create the invitations, and arrange for distribution. May I ask the young woman you mentioned, who is she? At least give me her name so I can ensure her invitation is particularly. No special treatment, Michael says quickly. She should receive the same invitation as everyone else. I don't want her to feel singled out or pressured. Her name is Grace. She lives with her aunt's family in Ikoyi. Beatrice is the aunt's name, I believe. But treat that invitation exactly like all the others. She must come of her own free will, believing she has the same chance as anyone else. That evening, after Chief Samuel departs to begin the monumental task, Michael returns to his late father's private chambers. The room remains largely untouched, his father's favorite books on the shelves, his reading glasses on the side table, the faint scent of his tobacco still lingering in the curtains. Michael stands before his father's portrait, studying the kind, weathered face that led the kingdom for 40 years. I think I found her, father, Michael says softly to the painted image. The one you told me about. Someone who is kind when no one is watching, who gives when she has nothing. She doesn't know I exist, not as Michael anyway. Maybe she's seen my face in newspapers or on television, but she doesn't know that I've been watching her, learning who she truly is. I've seen her comfort a crying child. I've seen her defend the weak. I've seen her give away her last money to feed someone hungry. That's the woman you described. That's who should wear the crown beside me. He pauses, his throat tight with emotion. I just hope she comes to the ball. I hope I get the chance to meet her properly, to let her see me as I truly am too. Please guide me, Father. Help me honor your wisdom. 3 weeks before the ball, royal couriers fan out across Lagos and the surrounding regions in vehicles bearing the royal insignia. It's a massive undertaking, hundreds of addresses, thousands of invitations, each one carefully prepared with gold-embossed lettering and the prince's personal seal. The couriers work methodically through neighborhoods, from the mansions of Victoria Island to the modest homes of Surulere, from the compounds of Ikeja to the streets of Mushin. Every household with an eligible daughter receives the beautiful cream-colored envelope. At Aunt Beatrice's mansion in Ikoyi, the morning sun streams through expensive curtains as the family gathers in the spacious living room for breakfast. Grace has already served them and retreated to a corner, ready to refill drinks or fetch anything required. Beatrice, a heavy-set woman with an imperious manner and jewelry that clinks with every movement, is discussing Diana's upcoming engagement when the doorbell rings. Grace hurries to answer it, finding a royal courier in official uniform holding a leather satchel. Delivery for the household of Mrs. Beatrice Okafor, he announces formally. Invitations from His Royal Highness, Prince Michael. Grace's heart skips. Royal invitations? She calls for Aunt Beatrice, who sweeps to the door with Diana and Ruth trailing behind, their curiosity piqued. The courier opens his satchel and consults a list. Invitation for Mrs. Beatrice Okafor. He hands over a thick envelope. Beatrice's face lights with triumph. This is exactly the kind of social validation she craves. Invitation for Miss Diana Okafor. Diana squeals with delight, clutching her envelope like a trophy. Invitation for Miss Ruth Okafor. Ruth grabs hers eagerly, already imagining herself as princess. The courier checks his list again. An invitation for Miss Grace Okafor. The silence that follows is profound and terrible. Diana's squeal cuts off mid-note. Ruth's mouth falls open. Beatrice's face drains of color, then flushes dark red. Grace, standing slightly behind them, feels her heart hammer in her chest. Did she hear correctly? An invitation for her? I'm sorry, Beatrice says sharply, her voice cutting. There must be a mistake. Grace is not an Okafor. She's just staying with us temporarily. She's my late sister's daughter. The courier checks his paperwork. I have Miss Grace registered at this address, madam. The prince's instructions were clear: every eligible young woman in the kingdom is to receive a personal invitation. May I give this to Miss Grace? Before Beatrice can respond, the courier looks past her to Grace and extends the envelope. Grace's hands tremble as she accepts it. The weight of the paper, the texture of the expensive stock, the gold embossing that catches the light, it's the most beautiful thing she's ever held with her name on it. Her name. Miss Grace. Not the orphan, or Beatrice's niece, or that girl. Just Grace, as though she's a person of worth equal to her cousins. The courier bows slightly. He bows to everyone equally, it's protocol, but to Grace it feels like the first time anyone has shown her formal respect in 8 years. The ball will be held 3 weeks from today at the palace. The dress code is formal. Transportation will be available for those who require it. Please contact the palace office if you need assistance. His Highness looks forward to meeting all the invited guests. With that, he departs, leaving the family frozen in the doorway. Diana is the first to break the silence. She snatches Grace's invitation from her hands so violently that the envelope tears slightly at the edge. Let me see that. She examines it closely, as if searching for proof that it's fake or a joke. But it's real, completely official, with Grace's full name written in elegant calligraphy, the same gold seal, the same expensive paper as their invitations. This is ridiculous, Ruth says, her voice shrill. Why would the prince invite her? She's nobody. She's a servant. This must be some kind of administrative error. They probably sent invitations to every name registered at this address without checking who actually lives here properly. Beatrice nods slowly, grasping at this explanation like a lifeline. Yes, that must be it. An error. Grace, you understand this invitation isn't really meant for you. It would be inappropriate for you to attend. You have no suitable clothing, no jewelry, no. I was invited, Grace says quietly, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice. The courier said every eligible young woman. He knew my name. He brought it specifically for me. Diana laughs, a harsh sound. And what exactly do you think will happen if you go? That the prince will notice you? That you'll somehow compete with us? With real society girls who know how to behave at royal events? You'd embarrass yourself and us. Grace gently takes her invitation back from Diana's hands. The paper is wrinkled now, one corner bent, but it's still hers. I don't know what will happen, she says softly. But I was invited. Someone thought I deserved an invitation. That's enough. She turns and walks toward her small room, cradling the envelope against her chest like something precious and fragile. Behind her, she hears Diana and Ruth burst into anxious chatter, their voices overlapping with worry. In her tiny room, Grace sits on her thin mattress and carefully opens the envelope. The invitation inside is even more beautiful, up close, thick cardstock with embossed borders, the prince's seal in gold, and her name, Miss Grace. The formal language invites her to attend a royal ball 3 weeks hence, where Prince Michael will have the honor of meeting the eligible young women of his kingdom. She reads it over and over, each word a small miracle. The honor of your presence is requested. Her presence is requested. She's been seen. She's been acknowledged. For the first time since her parents died, someone has recognized that she exists as a person of worth. Tears stream down Grace's face, but they're not tears of sadness. They're tears of hope, of possibility, of maybe, just maybe, life could be different. She doesn't dare dream of catching the prince's attention that seems impossibly far-fetched. But to attend, to wear something beautiful for one evening, to be in a room where she's treated as an equal rather than a servant, to stand in the light rather than the shadows, that's enough. That would be everything. The days following the invitation's arrival transform Aunt Beatrice's household into a whirlwind of preparation and barely concealed hostility. Beatrice, Diana, and Ruth are consumed with their plans for the ball shopping expeditions to the most expensive boutiques on Victoria Island, appointments with the city's most sought-after makeup artists, consultations with jewelry designers about which pieces will best complement their gowns. Money flows freely, money that Grace knows came partially from her parents' estate, inheritance that Beatrice claimed for Grace's care but has never spent on Grace herself. Diana chooses a crimson osso oak ensemble with gold threading that costs more than most families earn in a year. Ruth selects a midnight blue velvet gown imported from London, with matching shoes handmade by Italian craftsmen. Beatrice commissions a custom-tailored purple lace outfit with enough jewelry to stock a small shop, gold necklaces, bangles, earrings that dangle and catch the light. They model their choices for each other, preening in front of mirrors, imagining the prince's reaction to their magnificence. Grace watches this from the margins, as always. She serves them, helps carry shopping bags, holds items while they try on accessories, and cleans up the tissue paper and shopping bags that accumulate like debris after a storm. No one offers to help her find something to wear. No one even acknowledges that she also has an invitation, also needs to prepare. She's invisible again, except when they need her to fetch something or clean something or stand there holding something heavy while they decide. One evening, as Diana tries on her 5th pair of shoes, Grace gathers her courage. "Aunt Beatrice," she begins hesitantly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I was wondering if it would be possible to borrow a dress for the ball? I don't need anything new or expensive. Perhaps something older that doesn't fit anymore? I can alter it to fit me." Beatrice doesn't even look up from the jewelry catalogue she's perusing. "Don't be ridiculous, Grace. My clothes and my daughter's clothes are far too expensive to lend out. Besides, you'd stretch them. And even if I wanted to help, I don't have anything suitable for someone in your position." The word position carries a weight of contempt that makes Grace's cheeks burn. Diana laughs from the couch where she's admiring her new shoes. "Grace, even if we gave you a dress, what would be the point? You don't know how to behave at a royal ball. You've never attended any formal event. You'd probably use the wrong fork or curtsy incorrectly and embarrass yourself. And us. Better to stay home, don't you think?" Ruth chimes in, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "It's not your fault you weren't raised for this kind of thing. Our mother taught us social graces since we were children. But you grew up so differently. It's really for your own good that you don't go." Grace retreats to her room, her request denied, her dignity trampled once again. But lying on her mattress, staring at the ceiling, she makes a quiet decision. She will go. She'll find a way. The invitation is hers. The courier said she deserved it. She won't let fear or family cruelty steal this chance from her. She has one dress that might work, the dress she wore to her parents' funeral 8 years ago. It's black, simple, outdated, and she's grown since then, so it doesn't fit quite right. But it's all she has. Late at night, after everyone sleeps, Grace takes out the funeral dress. By candlelight, she examines it carefully. The seams are tight because she was 14 when she last wore it, and now she's 22. The hem is too short. The style is from nearly a decade ago. But the fabric is still good. Her mother chose quality clothes, even if they were plain. Grace has been secretly saving needles and thread from household mending over the years. Now she uses them. She carefully picks out the seams and lets them out, gaining precious inches. She adds strips of fabric from an old pillowcase to extend the hem, not obvious, but enough. She sews late into the night, her fingers moving by memory, her mother's voice in her head teaching her to make neat, invisible stitches. By the 3rd night, she's transformed the dress. It's still simple, still plain black with no embroidery or beading, but it fits her properly now. She has no jewelry except her mother's small silver locket that she's never taken off. No fancy shoes, just her everyday sandals that she'll polish until they shine. Her plan is simple. She'll walk to the palace if necessary. It's several miles, but she's strong from years of housework. She'll arrive quietly, stay in the background, just experience one evening where she's treated as an equal, then return home. She doesn't expect anything more than that one night of dignity. But as the ball approaches, Diana and Ruth's anxiety grows into something darker. They watch Grace with suspicious eyes. They notice her sewing at night and exchange worried glances. What if she actually goes? Diana whispers to her sister when they're alone in Diana's room. What if somehow, impossibly, the prince notices her? We'll be ruined. If an orphan servant from our own house catches royal attention, we'll be humiliated. Everyone will laugh at us. Say we were outshone by our own charity case. Ruth chews her lip nervously. She has a certain look. Natural. Unpolished. Some men find that attractive, the diamond in the rough fantasy. What if the prince is that type? What if he's tired of society girls and wants something different? Grace could ruin everything. Diana nods grimly. We have to tell Mother. She'll know what to do. She can't let Grace attend. It's too risky. They approach Beatrice that evening, finding her in her bedroom surrounded by boxes of accessories. Mother, Diana begins urgently, we need to talk about Grace. She's planning to attend the ball. We've seen her sewing something at night. What if she goes and somehow catches the prince's attention? Think of the scandal. Everyone will say we were jealous of our own poor relative. Our reputations will be destroyed. Beatrice's face hardens as she considers this. She's already deeply envious of Grace's natural grace and beauty qualities her own daughters lack despite expensive treatments and designer clothes. The thought of Grace outshining them at a royal event is intolerable. Don't worry, Beatrice says slowly, her mind working through possibilities. I won't let that happen. Grace will not attend the ball. I'll make sure of it. On the night of the event, I'll handle everything. Just leave it to me. Diana and Ruth exchange relieved smiles. Their mother has always protected their interests, no matter what it takes. They trust her to solve this problem, to keep Grace in her place, to ensure their night of triumph isn't ruined by an orphan who doesn't know her station. Inside the palace, preparations for the ball have reached fever pitch. The grand ballroom has been transformed into something from a fairy tale, crystal chandeliers throwing rainbow light across polished marble floors, arrangements of orchids and roses flown in from around the world, silk drapes in royal purple and gold cascading from the ceiling. In the kitchens, dozens of chefs prepare a feast that will feed hundreds. Jollof rice perfected to exact specifications, suya grilled to smoky perfection, pounded yam smooth as silk, egusi soup rich with crayfish, pepper soup that will clear sinuses and warm hearts, small chops of every variety, and desserts both traditional and international. Prince Michael oversees some preparations personally, but Chief Samuel notices he's distracted. The prince stands in the ballroom, gazing out the tall windows toward the city below, his mind clearly elsewhere. Your Highness, Chief Samuel approaches carefully, is something troubling you? The preparations are proceeding excellently. Every detail has been confirmed. The guest list has grown to nearly 800 eligible young women, an unprecedented number, exactly as you requested. The noble families are still grumbling about the inclusion of common folk, but they dare not refuse the prince's invitation. Michael turns from the window. Chief Samuel, can I tell you something in confidence? The old advisor nods. Always, Your Highness. Michael hesitates, then says quietly, I'm hoping for someone specific to attend. Someone I've been watching for months. She has a quality I've never seen in anyone else, genuine kindness that isn't performed, that exists whether anyone is looking or not. She gives when she has nothing. She helps when no one sees. She's exactly what my father told me to look for. Chief Samuel's weathered face shows interest. You've already found someone? Then why this enormous ball? Why not simply court her directly? Michael shakes his head. Because I need to see if she'll come. If she'll make the choice to attend. And I need to meet her properly, as Michael the Prince, not Michael the disguised observer. If I approached her privately, she might feel obligated or intimidated by the title. This way, at the ball, surrounded by hundreds of others, she'll come freely if she comes at all. She'll feel she has the same chance as everyone else. Wise. Chief Samuel acknowledges. Your father would approve. May I ask her name? Michael pulls a folded paper from his pocket, a copy of the invitation list with one name highlighted. Grace. She lives with her aunt's family in Ikoyi. The aunt is Beatrice Okafor. I made sure her invitation was sent, along with invitations for the aunt and 2 cousins. But Grace is the one I want to meet. I want to see if she feels the same connection I believe exists between us. Chief Samuel examines the name thoughtfully. Grace. I remember this household. When we compiled the invitation list, my clerk noted something unusual. The aunt registered 4 women initially, but then tried to remove Grace's name, claiming she wasn't actually part of the family. My clerk insisted she be included per your instructions, that every eligible woman at an address receive an invitation. There was some dispute, but we sent Grace her invitation as required. Michael's jaw tightens. The aunt tried to exclude her? Why? Chief Samuel shrugs. Office politics, perhaps. Or family dynamics. Not uncommon in households where there are stepdaughters or wards. But rest assured, Grace received her invitation. Whether she chooses to attend is up to her. Make a note, Michael instructs firmly. I want to know the moment Grace arrives. Don't announce it to anyone else. I don't want to make her uncomfortable, but inform me immediately. And Chief Samuel, if she doesn't arrive in the first hour, I want you to investigate why. Send someone discreetly to check if there's a problem. This is important to me. The old advisor bows. As you wish, Your Highness. I'll arrange for a courier to stand by just in case. But surely she'll attend? This is the event of the decade. Every young woman in Lagos is dying to come. I hope so, Michael says quietly. I desperately hope so. But I've seen how she lives. I've seen her family treat her like a servant. I've seen the worn clothes she wears and the tiny room she sleeps in. I followed her home once, stayed across the street and watched through the window. She deserves so much better. This ball is her chance to be seen as she truly is, valued as she deserves. But there are many obstacles that could prevent her from attending. That's why I need you to be watchful. That evening, Michael visits his father's study again, a habit he's developed, finding comfort in the quiet space that still carries his father's presence. He stands before the portrait of King David, studying the painted eyes that seem to hold wisdom and compassion in equal measure. Father, the ball is in 3 days. I've done what you advised. I've been watching people when they don't know royalty is near. And I found her. Grace. She's everything you described. Kind without audience, generous without expectation, graceful despite suffering. I've seen her give her last money to feed a hungry child. I've seen her comfort the sick and defend the weak. That's who I want to marry. That's who should help me rule this kingdom. He pauses, his throat tight with emotion. But I'm afraid, Father. What if she doesn't come? What if her family prevents her, or poverty stops her, or she simply doesn't believe she deserves to attend? What if I've built this entire event around meeting her and she never arrives? What if I spend the evening dancing with women who see only my crown while the one person who might see me stands outside unable to enter? The portrait offers no answer, but somehow the steady painted gaze provides comfort. His father taught him that doing the right thing doesn't guarantee the desired outcome, but it guarantees a clear conscience. Inviting every eligible woman was right. Giving Grace the same opportunity as everyone else was right. What happens next is beyond his control. Michael returns to his chambers and pulls out a small velvet box he's been keeping hidden. Inside is his mother's engagement ring, a simple but elegant band with a single perfect diamond. Queen Elizabeth died when Michael was 12, but he remembers her kindness, her strength, her dedication to serving the people. His father never remarried, claiming Elizabeth was his one true love. Mother, Michael whispers, touching the ring, I hope I'm making you proud. I want to find someone like you, someone who leads with kindness, who sees people as humans rather than subjects. I think I've found her. Please help her find her way to me. The next day, Michael makes an unusual request. He instructs Chief Samuel to arrange for transportation assistance for any invited guest who needs it, vehicles that will pick up women from designated locations across the city and bring them to the palace free of charge. No one should miss this event because they lack a car or taxi money, he explains. Make the arrangements clear in the newspaper announcements. Every woman who was invited deserves the opportunity to attend, regardless of financial means. Chief Samuel arranges it immediately, sending notices to every community board and newspaper in Lagos. Transportation to the royal ball available for all invited guests. Contact the palace office to arrange pickup. But what Michael doesn't know, what no amount of planning or kindness can prevent, is that some obstacles aren't external. They're deliberate sabotage from those who should be family, who should protect and support, but instead tear down and destroy. He doesn't know that while he's planning how to welcome Grace, her own aunt is planning how to imprison her. The day of the ball arrives with all the weight of accumulated hope and dread. In Aunt Beatrice's mansion, the house pulses with chaotic energy from dawn. Professional makeup artists arrive at 6 a.m., setting up portable stations in Diana and Ruth's rooms. Hairstylists follow, carrying cases full of hot irons, brushes, hair extensions, and styling products. The scent of expensive perfume and hairspray fills the air until it's almost suffocating. Beatrice commandeers the master bathroom, taking a 2-hour bath with imported oils and lotions, emerging wrapped in silk to begin her own elaborate preparation routine. Grace moves through this chaos like a ghost, fetching and carrying, holding items, answering demands. Grace, I need my blue shoes. Grace, where's my jewelry box? Grace, iron this shawl immediately. She's already dressed in her carefully altered black dress, her hair simply braided, her mother's locket around her neck. She looks neat and clean, if painfully plain compared to her cousin's elaborate preparations. But there's a quiet dignity in her simplicity, a grace that no amount of money can buy. By 4 p.m., Diana and Ruth are transformed into glittering spectacles. Diana's crimson osso oak is so heavily embroidered with gold thread that it stiffens her movements. Her makeup is thick foundations several shades lighter than her natural skin tone, eyebrows drawn in exaggerated arches, lips painted a glossy red. Her hair has been woven into an elaborate updo with extensions added for volume, studded with golden pins that catch the light. Ruth's midnight blue velvet gown fits so tightly she can barely breathe, requiring 2 people to zip her into it. Her makeup rivals Diana's in its intensity, and her hair has been straightened and curled into ringlets that cascade down her back, held in place with enough hairspray to withstand a hurricane. Beatrice surveys her daughters with proud satisfaction. She's dressed in her custom purple lace ensemble, dripping with gold jewelry, heavy necklaces, multiple bangles on each wrist, chandelier earrings so large they brush her shoulders. Together, the 3 women look like they're trying to outshine the sun itself. They pose for photographs, admiring themselves in every mirror they pass, already imagining the moment when Prince Michael sees them and is dazzled by their magnificence. Grace keeps to the edges of this spectacle, quietly waiting. The ball starts at 7 p.m. She knows the drive to the palace takes about 40 minutes from Ikoyi. She's hoping they'll all leave together. There's certainly room in the hired limousine Beatrice has arranged. But as 6 p.m. approaches, as the family gathers in the living room for final checks, Grace senses something wrong. The way Beatrice keeps glancing at her with a strange expression. The way Diana and Ruth exchange knowing looks. At 6:15 p.m., Grace takes a breath and steps forward. Her voice is quiet but determined. Aunt Beatrice, I'm ready. What time are we leaving for the palace? The room goes silent. Diana stops adjusting her jewelry. Ruth's smirk freezes on her face. Beatrice slowly turns to face Grace, and there's something cold and final in her expression that makes Grace's stomach drop. Beatrice says softly, dangerously. You think you're coming with us? Grace feels her face flush but holds her ground. I have an invitation. The prince invited me. I have every right to attend. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out the envelope, now worn from being handled so many times, but still official, still bearing her name. What happens next occurs so quickly that Grace barely has time to react. Diana moves first, crossing the room in 3 rapid steps and snatching the invitation from Grace's hand with such force that it tears at the edge. This. Diana holds it up mockingly, waving it in the air. This is what you're basing your delusions on? A piece of paper. Ruth joins her sister, grabbing the other edge of the envelope. Let me see this ridiculous thing. I want to understand what made her think she could attend a royal ball dressed like a maid. Grace lunges forward desperately. No. Please don't. That's mine. The prince sent it to me personally. You can't. But her plea is cut off by the terrible sound of tearing paper. Diana and Ruth, grinning at each other with cruel delight, begin to rip the invitation. Not just once, but again and again, tearing it into smaller and smaller pieces while Grace begs them to stop. Tears streamed down her face. Please. I need that. How will I prove I was invited? Please, you're my family. Why are you doing this? Family. Beatrice's voice cuts through Grace's sobs like a knife. You're not family. You're a burden we took in out of charity when your parents died. You're a servant, nothing more. And you will not embarrass us by showing up at a royal event and making people think we're the kind of family that allows servants to get above themselves. She walks to the fireplace where a small fire burns. It's a cool Lagos evening and she likes the ambience. Beatrice begins picking up the torn pieces of invitation from where Diana and Ruth dropped them on the floor, gathering them carefully. Grace watches in mounting horror as Beatrice approaches the fireplace. No. No, please. Aunt Beatrice, I'm begging you. That invitation is the only proof I have. Without it, they won't let me in. Please don't burn it. Please. But Beatrice's face is stone. One by one, deliberately slowly, she feeds the torn pieces into the flames. Grace watches the gold lettering curl and blacken, her name disappearing into ash. The cream-colored paper browns and disintegrates. In less than a minute, her invitation, her tangible proof that someone saw her worth, that the prince himself thought she deserved to attend, is reduced to nothing. There, Beatrice says, dusting ash from her hands with satisfaction. Problem solved. Now there's no confusion about your place in this household. Grace sinks to her knees, sobbing. Why? What did I ever do to you? I've worked for 8 years without complaint. I've been nothing but obedient and helpful. Why do you hate me so much? Diana answers with brutal honesty. Because you exist. Because despite wearing rags and sleeping in a closet, you have something we don't natural grace that makes people look twice. We can't let you go to that ball and play on the prince's sympathy with your pitiful orphan story. You'd ruin our chances. Grace stands on shaking legs, wiping her tears. Her voice is raw but determined. I don't need the invitation. They'll have records at the palace. I'll tell them what happened. I'll explain that my invitation was destroyed. They'll verify. But Beatrice cuts her off with a sharp gesture. Diana. Ruth. Take her upstairs. The attic. Now. The words fall like hammer blows. Grace's eyes widen in understanding and fresh fear. No. You can't. That's illegal. You can't imprison me. But her protests are meaningless. Diana and Ruth move forward, grabbing Grace's arms. Despite her struggles, Grace is no match for 2 people. They drag her toward the stairs leading to the attic, a dusty space filled with old furniture and boxes, rarely used except for storage. Grace fights every step, her shoes scraping against the floor, her voice rising in desperation. Let me go. Someone help. The prince invited me. He'll wonder where I am. You can't do this. But the house staff have been given the evening off so the family could prepare in privacy. There's no one to hear, no one to intervene. They push her into the attic, a dark space with only one small window. Dust motes float in the dimming evening light. The room smells of must and abandonment. Beatrice appears in the doorway, holding an old key she retrieved from her bedroom. You'll stay here until we return from the ball, she says coldly. And if you make noise, if you try to escape, if you cause any trouble at all, there will be consequences far worse than missing one party. Do you understand me? Grace's voice breaks. Please, Aunt Beatrice. I'm begging you. This is my one chance. Please don't take this from me. I'll do anything. I'll work harder. I'll never complain. Just please let me attend this one event. But Beatrice's expression doesn't soften. If anything, it hardens further. You should be grateful we gave you a home at all. Your parents left you nothing. You'd be on the street if not for my generosity. Learn your place, Grace. You're not a princess. You never will be. You're just an orphan who should be thankful for what she has. With that, she pulls the door shut. The old hinges creak. The key turns in the lock with a terrible final click that echoes through Grace's soul. Grace is left in the gathering darkness, listening to the sound of her aunt and cousins descending the stairs, their laughter floating up triumphant, cruel. Through the small attic window, she watches as the sun sets over Lagos, the sky turning orange and purple and finally deep blue. She sees the limousine pull up to the house. She watches Beatrice, Diana, and Ruth emerge in all their glittering glory, climbing into the vehicle. She watches the car drive away toward the palace, toward the ball, toward the life she'll never have. Her one chance, stolen and burned to ash. Her hope, locked in an attic. Her worth, denied once again. The royal palace blazes with light as the sun sets over Lagos. Every window glows. The grand entrance is lined with torches that cast dancing shadows across the manicured gardens. Palace guards in ceremonial dress stand at attention, their uniforms pristine. A red carpet stretches from the main gate to the palace entrance, and along this carpet walk hundreds of young women in their finest attire, a river of silk, lace, velvet, and traditional fabrics in every color imaginable. The air vibrates with excitement, nervous laughter, and the underlying current of competition as each woman wonders if tonight might change her life forever. Inside the grand ballroom, the sight is breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers catch and scatter light like captured stars. The orchestra 30 pieces strong fills the space with elegant music. Round tables draped in cream and gold cloth hold elaborate centerpieces. A buffet along one wall displays a feast of staggering proportions, traditional Nigerian dishes and international cuisine arranged with artistic precision. Waiters circulate with trays of champagne and fresh juice. The palace staff has transformed the space into something from a dream. Beatrice, Diana, and Ruth arrive in their limousine around 7:30 p.m., fashionably late by design. They want to make an entrance, to be noticed. As they step onto the red carpet, they're momentarily intimidated by the sheer scale and magnificence of the event. The other guests are equally glamorous, equally eager. But Beatrice lifts her chin and marches forward with her daughters flanking her, determined to outshine everyone. They're announced at the entrance: Mrs. Beatrice Okafor and daughters Miss Diana Okafor and Miss Ruth Okafor, and they sweep into the ballroom with practiced superiority. Prince Michael stands near the throne area, formally greeting guests as they arrive. He's dressed in traditional royal attire, a magnificent agbada in deep purple with gold embroidery, the fabric rich and heavy. He looks every inch the prince, tall, dignified, handsome in a way that has nothing to do with features and everything to do with the kindness in his eyes and the strength in his bearing. He greets each guest courteously, learning names, making small talk, but his attention is clearly divided. Between greetings, his eyes scan the room. He's looking for someone. Chief Samuel stands discreetly nearby, holding a leather-bound ledger that contains the full guest list. As each hour passes, he checks off names as attendees arrive. By 8:30 p.m., most of the invited guests had come. The ballroom is packed, easily 600 women, plus their chaperones and the various nobles and dignitaries invited to observe. The noise level is tremendous: conversations, laughter, the clink of glasses, the swish of expensive fabrics as women move through the crowd. Prince Michael finally breaks away from his greeting duties and approaches Chief Samuel. "Has everyone arrived?" he asks quietly, trying to keep the anxiety from his voice. Chief Samuel consults his ledger, running his finger down the pages. "Nearly everyone, Your Highness. There are perhaps a dozen names that haven't yet been checked off, Though many could still arrive, the event continues until midnight. Michael nods, but his jaw is tight. Chief Samuel, read me the names of those who haven't arrived. The old advisor lists them, coming to one that makes Michael's heart sink: Miss Grace Okafor. Michael's hand clenches briefly. But her aunt and cousins are here? I saw them announced. Chief Samuel checks. Yes, Your Highness. Mrs. Beatrice Okafor and her daughters Diana and Ruth arrived approximately an hour ago. They're currently near the refreshment tables. Michael's eyes narrow. Something is wrong. His instincts, honed by months of observation, are screaming warnings. Why would 3 members of a household attend but not the 4th? Particularly when all received personal invitations. He makes a decision. Chief Samuel, I need you to send Captain James immediately to the Okafor household. Discreetly, I don't want to cause a scene or embarrass anyone. But I need to know why Grace didn't attend. Have him report back to me directly. Chief Samuel's eyes show understanding and approval. Very wise, Your Highness. I'll dispatch him immediately. He signals to a senior guard, who finds Captain James among the security detail. Within minutes, Captain James, a reliable officer who served the royal family for 15 years, receives his instructions and slips away from the palace, changing into simpler civilian clothes to avoid drawing attention. While this is happening, the ball continues in full swing. The orchestra strikes up a waltz, and several young women position themselves strategically, hoping to catch Prince Michael's eye for the first dance. Diana and Ruth are among them, their earlier confidence bolstered by expensive champagne. He has to notice us, Diana whispers urgently to her sister. We're the most striking women here. Ruth nods, though her eyes nervously scan the room at the competition. Many beautiful, elegant young women, some from noble families with impressive lineages, others clearly from modest backgrounds but carrying themselves with dignity. Prince Michael begins to dance. It's expected of him, part of his duty as host. He chooses partners almost at random, dancing with a senator's daughter, then a merchant's daughter, then a teacher from a local school. He's polite, even charming, but his heart isn't engaged. His mind keeps returning to Grace. Where is she? Is she safe? Did something prevent her from attending, or did she choose not to come? Each possibility troubles him in different ways. He's so distracted that he steps on his current partner's foot, immediately apologizing profusely while she giggles and assures him it's fine. Meanwhile, in the attic of the Okafor mansion in Ikoyi, Grace sits in the darkness. She cried until she had no tears left. The initial devastating grief has settled into a hollow numbness. Through the small window, she can see the glow of the palace in the distance, lights blazing across the night sky, visible for miles. She imagines the music, the dancing, the beautiful gowns. She imagines Prince Michael greeting guests, unaware that one of them is locked in an attic, her invitation burned to ash by jealous relatives who couldn't bear the thought of her attending. She pulls her mother's locket from her neck and opens it, looking at the tiny photographs inside: her father's kind face, her mother's gentle smile. They were good people, hard-working and loving. They died when their house caught fire, trapped on the 2nd floor while Grace was spending the night at a friend's house. She was 14 and suddenly orphaned, with nowhere to go. Beatrice took her in, claiming sisterly duty, but the kindness lasted only until the funeral ended and attention moved elsewhere. Then Grace became a servant, unpaid and unappreciated, working endless hours for people who saw her as less than human. "Mama, Papa," Grace whispers to the photographs. "I tried. I really tried. I thought maybe things could be different. But they won't let me be anything more than what they say I am. They burned my invitation. They locked me here like I'm dangerous, like my presence at a royal ball would somehow destroy them. I don't understand why they hate me so much. I've done everything they asked. I've never complained. But it's never enough. I'll never be enough." She closes the locket and presses it to her heart, feeling her parents' absence like a physical wound. Back at the palace, Captain James arrives at the Okafor mansion just after midnight. The house is dark and silent. Everyone is at the ball. He knocks on the door but receives no answer. Following his instincts and his prince's concern, he walks around the property, looking for any sign of life. That's when he hears it, faint sound from above. Crying. He looks up and sees the attic window, and in that window, barely visible in the moonlight, a face appears. Hello. Captain James calls up to the attic window, his voice carrying through the quiet night. Is someone there? Are you all right? The face at the window becomes clearer as it moves closer to the glass. A young woman, her face tear-stained, her expression a mixture of hope and fear. Help me, she calls down, her voice hoarse from crying. Please, I'm locked in. They locked me in the attic before they left. I need help. James's training kicks in immediately. Something is very wrong here. Are you Miss Grace? He calls up. The woman's eyes widened in shock. Yes. How did you know my name? Who are you? James feels a cold anger settle over him. The anger of a good man confronting deliberate cruelty. I'm Captain James of the Royal Guard. Prince Michael sent me. He noticed you didn't attend the ball and was concerned. Can you tell me what happened? Grace's voice breaks as she tries to explain quickly. My aunt and cousins destroyed my invitation. They tore it up and burned it in the fireplace. Then they locked me in here before they left for the palace. I've been trapped here for hours. Please, can you help me get out? I know it's too late to attend the ball, but I can't stay locked in here anymore. Captain James's jaw tightens with fury. This is worse than he imagined. Miss Grace, I'm going to get you out. Stay calm. I'll find a way inside. He examines the house's exterior, looking for an entry point. The front door is solidly locked, as are the back doors. But there's a ground floor window that appears to have a faulty latch. James uses his training skills he's employed in more serious situations than rescuing invited guests to carefully work the window open. It takes several minutes, but eventually the latch gives way and he's able to climb inside. He finds himself in what appears to be a storage room. Moving quickly but quietly through the dark house, he locates the attic stairs. The door at the top is locked with an old-fashioned key lock. Miss Grace, he calls through the door. I'm here. I'm going to break this lock. Stand back from the door, please. He hears her move away, then he applies his shoulder to the door near the lock. It takes 3 solid hits before the old wood splinters and the lock mechanism breaks free. The door swings open and Grace stumbles out, cramped from hours in the confined space, her legs stiff from sitting on the dusty floor. Captain James steadies her with a respectful hand on her elbow. In the dim light filtering up from downstairs, James gets his first clear look at the woman his prince has been so concerned about. She's wearing a simple black dress that's clearly old and has been carefully altered. Her face is tear-stained, her eyes red from crying, her simple braid disheveled from hours of distress. But even in this state, he can see what Prince Michael saw: an innate dignity, a quality of grace that transcends clothing or circumstances. She meets his eyes directly, not with the practiced flirtation of society ladies, but with honest gratitude. Thank you, Grace says simply. Thank you for coming. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't. They might have left me locked here all night. Captain James's voice is gentle but firm. Miss Grace, I need to understand what happened. You said your invitation was destroyed? Can you tell me exactly what occurred? Grace takes a shaky breath and explains the arrival of the invitations, her aunt and cousin's rage, the destruction of her envelope, the burning of the pieces, her imprisonment in the attic. As she speaks, James's expression grows darker. This is very serious, Miss Grace, he says when she finishes. What they did isn't just cruel, it's illegal. Imprisonment, destruction of royal correspondence, preventing a royal guest from attending an event. Prince Michael will want to hear this directly from you. But first, we need evidence. He leads her downstairs to the living room and examines the fireplace where Grace says the invitation was burned. Using a tool from his pocket, he carefully sifts through the ashes. To his satisfaction, he finds several pieces that didn't fully burn, charred fragments that still show gold lettering and part of Grace's name. He wraps these carefully in a clean handkerchief. Now, he says, turning to Grace, Prince Michael wants you at the ball. I know it's late, we're probably 3 hours into the event by now. And I understand if you feel uncomfortable attending after what you've been through. But His Highness was quite specific. He wants you there. He sent me to find you and escort you to the palace if you're willing. Grace looks down at her worn black dress, touches her disheveled hair. But look at me. I can't go to a royal ball like this. I'm a mess. I don't even have my invitation anymore to prove I was invited. Captain James smiles kindly. Miss Grace, the prince's personal invitation doesn't require paper proof. He knows who you are. As for your appearance, His Highness anticipated there might be complications. He's been concerned about you all evening. He asked me to escort you directly to the palace, where attendants will help you prepare properly. You won't enter the ballroom until you're ready. But please, will you come? The prince has been watching the door all night hoping you'd arrive. Grace can barely process what she's hearing. The prince? He's been watching for me? But why? He doesn't even know me. How would he know if I arrived or not? Captain James's expression softens. Miss Grace, I'm not at liberty to explain everything. That's for His Highness to tell you himself. But I can say that you matter to him. Your absence was noticed immediately. Your presence is desired. Now please, we should hurry. I have a vehicle waiting. Grace's heart pounds as she nods. Yes. Yes, I'll come. I want to attend. I was invited and I deserve to be there, no matter what my aunt says. There's a new strength in her voice, a determination born from having her hope destroyed and then unexpectedly restored. Captain James leads her outside to where an unmarked vehicle waits, not a royal car that would draw attention, but a simple sedan that could belong to anyone. He opens the door for her, treating her with the same courtesy he'd show nobility. As they drive through the Lagos night toward the palace, Grace stares out the window in disbelief. This is really happening. Someone came for her. Someone cared that she was missing. The prince himself noticed her absence and sent his personal guard to investigate. She doesn't understand why she's nobody, an orphan servant with no family, no wealth, no status. But somehow, impossibly, she matters. Her hands tremble in her lap as the palace comes into view, blazing with light like a fairy tale made real. Miss Grace, Captain James says gently as they approach the gates. Whatever happens tonight, remember that you were personally invited by Prince Michael. You belong here just as much as anyone else. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. The guards at the palace gate recognize Captain James and wave them through without question. Instead of the main entrance where guests arrived earlier, he takes her to a private side door used by staff and royal family. Inside, the corridors are quieter, away from the ballroom's noise. He leads her to a preparation room, a comfortable space with mirrors, a wardrobe, and several palace attendants waiting. These ladies will help you, James explains. The prince asked them to be available in case you needed assistance. I'll wait outside and escort you to the ballroom when you're ready. Take your time. His Highness isn't going anywhere. In the preparation room, Grace is surrounded by kindness. 3 palace attendants, older women with gentle faces and competent hands, immediately take charge. They're not stylists hired for the evening but permanent palace staff, women who've served the royal family for years. Miss Grace, the eldest says warmly, His Highness asked us to help you feel comfortable. We're here to serve you however you need. First, would you like to freshen up? There's a private bathroom through that door with everything you might need. Grace nods, still overwhelmed. In the bathroom, she washes her face, removing the streaks of dried tears. She looks at herself in the mirror, red-eyed, exhausted, but there's also something new in her expression. A spark of defiance, maybe, or hope that's been tested and survived. She returns to find the attendants have laid out several gowns. We keep these for state functions, one explains. His Highness thought you might need an appropriate dress. Please choose whichever you like. The gowns are beautiful but not ostentatious, elegant evening dresses in various colors and styles. Grace's eye is drawn to a deep green silk gown with simple lines and subtle embroidery. It's beautiful without being showy, sophisticated without trying too hard. "May I try that one?" she asks hesitantly. The attendants help her into it, and it fits remarkably well as though it was made for her. The color brings out the warm undertones in her skin, and the cut flatters her figure. Grace has never worn anything so beautiful. "Now for your hair," the eldest attendant says. "May I?" Grace nods, and gentle hands undo her braid. They work her hair into a simple but elegant updo, leaving a few soft tendrils framing her face. No heavy products or extreme styling, just natural beauty enhanced with skill. They offer minimal makeup, a touch of powder to even her complexion, some lip color to bring back the life her crying depleted, a hint of mascara. When they finish, they step back with satisfied smiles. "Look, my dear," one says, turning her toward the full-length mirror. Grace gasps. The woman in the mirror is herself, but transformed. Not disguised, transformed. Her natural beauty, usually hidden beneath worn clothes and exhaustion, now shines through. The green gown emphasizes her grace of movement. The simple hairstyle highlights her face. She looks worthy. For the first time in 8 years, she looks like someone who belongs in a palace. Tears threaten again, but the attendant nearest her gently pats her hand. "None of that now. You're perfect. His Highness has good taste. He'll be very pleased." While Grace is being prepared, Captain James reports to Prince Michael in a private antechamber off the main ballroom. The noise of the ball continues beyond the doors, but here it's quieter. Michael listens to James's report with growing fury: the destroyed invitation, the imprisonment, the hours Grace spent locked in an attic while her family attended the ball she should have attended. When James produces the charred fragments of the invitation, Michael's hands shake as he takes them. Evidence of deliberate cruelty. "Where is she now?" Michael asks, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Being prepared, Your Highness. She should be ready in perhaps 20 minutes. But Your Highness, I must tell you she's remarkable. After everything she endured, she maintained her dignity. She didn't demand revenge or even express anger, she just wanted to attend the ball she was invited to. She said, 'I deserve to be there, no matter what my aunt says.' She's strong, Your Highness. Stronger than many would be in her circumstances." Michael nods slowly. An idea is forming in his mind, something unprecedented, something that will make a statement impossible to ignore. "James, I need you to do something for me. Something extraordinary. Go to the royal garage and have them prepare the full convoy, not just one car, but all 5 ceremonial carriages. I want mounted guards in dress uniform, torches, the royal trumpeters, everything we would use for visiting heads of state. Have them assemble at the main entrance in 15 minutes. Captain James's eyes widened. "Your Highness, that's extremely unusual. The full convoy. For a single guest." Michael's expression is determined. "This woman was personally invited by me. Her invitation was destroyed and she was imprisoned to prevent her from attending. I won't let her enter this ballroom quietly through a side door as though she's late or unwelcome. She deserves the entrance she should have had from the beginning, the entrance of someone valued, someone important, someone the prince specifically wants to honor. Arrange it immediately." James bows with a small smile. "It will be done, Your Highness." He departs, speaking urgently into his radio. Within minutes, the royal garage erupts with activity. Drivers scramble to prepare 5 ceremonial carriages, each pulled by white horses with purple and gold harnesses. Guards change into full ceremonial dress, gold buttons polished to mirror brightness, white gloves pristine, ceremonial swords gleaming. The royal trumpeters grab their instruments. Torch bearers light their flames. It's the kind of preparation usually reserved for foreign dignitaries or major state occasions. When Grace emerges from the preparation room, transformed and nervous, she finds Prince Michael himself waiting for her. She recognizes him immediately. She's seen his face in newspapers, on television, at formal events she watched from the servant's position. But she's never been this close, never made eye contact. He's tall and dignified in his royal agbada, but what strikes her most is his expression, kind, warm, and looking at her as though she's someone precious. "Miss Grace," Michael says, bowing slightly, a prince bowing to her. "I'm so glad you're here. I apologize for the delay in your arrival, and for what you suffered tonight." Grace tries to be curtsy, flustered and overwhelmed. "Your Highness, thank you for sending Captain James. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't. But I don't understand, how did you know I was missing? How did you even know my name?" Michael smiles gently. "I have much to explain to you, but first, there's something I want to do. Something I've been thinking about since Captain James told me what happened to you." He offers his arm. "May I have the honor of escorting you into the ball?" Grace takes his arm with trembling hands, feeling the fine fabric of his agbada, the solidity of his presence. But instead of leading her toward the ballroom, he guides her back outside, toward the main courtyard. Grace's confusion grows until she steps outside and sees what's waiting. Her breath catches in her throat. 5 massive ceremonial carriages stand in formation, each pulled by 4 white horses. Mounted guards in full dress uniform line both sides, holding torches that turn the night into blazing day. Royal trumpeters stand at attention, instruments ready. The entire scene looks like something from a fairy tale or a history book, the kind of procession reserved for queens and presidents, not orphan girls in borrowed dresses. What is this?" Grace whispers. Michael's voice is gentle but firm. "This is the reception you should have received when you first arrived. This is me making sure everyone in this kingdom, everyone in this palace knows that you are my personal guest, that you matter, that your presence here is not only welcome but important to me." He helps her into the lead carriage, the one reserved for royalty. He sits beside her, not across from her as protocol might suggest, but beside her, making a statement with every gesture. Michael signals, and the convoy begins to move. Not quickly, but slowly and majestically, giving everyone time to see. They circle from the side courtyard around to the main palace entrance. As they move, the royal trumpets sound, the same fanfare used for visiting heads of state, for coronations, for the most important state occasions. Every guard they pass comes to attention and salutes. Palace staff stop their work to watch in astonishment. Guests who've stepped outside for air turn to stare. Word spreads rapidly through the ballroom. Something extraordinary is happening. Inside the ballroom, the music has just ended when an unusual sound cuts through the chatter royal trumpets. Everyone turns toward the main entrance. This fanfare hasn't been used all evening. What could it mean? Who could be arriving with such ceremony hours into the event? Chief Samuel, standing near Prince Michael's throne, smiles slightly. His prince has outdone himself. Near the refreshment tables, Beatrice, Diana, and Ruth freeze. They know that fanfare. They know what it signifies. Their champagne-flushed faces drain of color as terrible understanding dawns. The massive ballroom doors swing open. The royal trumpets sound again. The palace announcer, who's been sitting quietly most of the evening, stands with a formal scroll and proclaims in a voice that carries to every corner. His Royal Highness, Prince Michael, escorting his personal guest, Miss Grace. The crowd parts like water, creating an immediate path from the entrance to the center of the ballroom. And through that path walks Prince Michael, in all his royal dignity, his arm linked with Grace's, his expression making clear that this is no accident or protocol, this is choice. Grace walks in a daze of disbelief. 600 faces turn toward her. The most elegant and wealthy young women in Lagos, each hoping to catch the prince's eye, watch as he chooses to walk in with her, an unknown girl arriving hours late in a borrowed dress. But Prince Michael's bearing makes it clear. This is the woman he's been waiting for. His smile is genuine, his attention focused entirely on Grace, his hand steady where it rests on her arm. He leads her to the center of the ballroom floor as the orchestra reading his intention begins a waltz. The slow, romantic melody fills the space. Prince Michael turns to Grace and asks formally, though his eyes are warm, "Miss Grace, may I have this dance?" Grace nods, unable to speak past the emotion clogging her throat. They begin to dance, and the entire ballroom watches in stunned silence. This is unprecedented. The prince dancing only with one woman, ignoring everyone else, making his preference absolutely clear. As they move across the floor, Michael speaks quietly so only Grace can hear. I've been watching you for months, Grace. I've seen who you are when no one else is looking. I saw you give your last money to a hungry child at Balagan Market. I saw you sit with an elderly man outside the pharmacy, fanning him in the heat. I saw you defend a young girl from harassment. Every act of kindness, every moment of grace despite your suffering, I saw it all. That's why I personally made sure you received an invitation. That's why I noticed when you weren't here. You are exactly what my father told me to look for, someone who is kind when no one is watching. Grace's eyes fill with tears. You were watching me? But why? I'm nobody. I'm just an orphan servant. I have nothing to offer someone like you. Michael shakes his head firmly. You have everything that matters. Character, kindness, strength. Grace, and I don't just mean your name. You've maintained your humanity despite years of cruelty. You give when you have nothing. You help when no one sees. That's worth more than all the wealth and status in this room combined. They dance through song after song. Prince Michael requests the orchestra continue, and they do, playing waltz after waltz while the prince dances only with Grace. Other young women watch with growing despair, their carefully laid plans, their expensive gowns, their practiced flirtations all meaningless. The prince has made his choice, and he's making it publicly, undeniably clear. Near the refreshment table, Beatrice has sunk into a chair, her face ashen. Diana and Ruth grip each other's arms, realizing with horror what they've done, not prevented Grace from attending, but made the prince more determined to find her, more committed to honoring her. After the third dance, Prince Michael finally leads Grace from the floor, but he doesn't release her hand. Instead, he raises his voice, addressing the ballroom. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The noise dies immediately. Every eye turns to the prince. Before we continue with the evening's festivities, there's a matter of justice that must be addressed. The room holds its collective breath. This is highly unusual. The prince's expression has shifted from warm to cold, from gentle to authoritative. Tonight, Michael continues, his voice carrying to every corner, a guest personally invited by me did not arrive at the expected time. When I investigated why, I discovered that her invitation, a formal document bearing my seal and my personal invitation, was deliberately destroyed. It was torn to pieces and burned. The invited guest was then locked in an attic to prevent her from attending this event. Gasps ripple through the crowd. This is shocking, almost unbelievable. Who would dare destroy a royal invitation? Michael continues. That guest is Miss Grace, who stands beside me now. The family responsible for this cruelty is also present tonight. He gestures, and royal guards move forward, approaching Beatrice, Diana, and Ruth. The three women are frozen in horror as hundreds of eyes turn to them. Mrs. Beatrice Okafor and her daughters Diana and Ruth Okafor, please step forward. It's not a request, it's a command. Trembling, they move toward the center of the ballroom, their earlier confidence completely shattered. Michael produces the charred invitation fragments Captain James collected. He holds them up for all to see, blackened paper with traces of gold lettering, Grace's name partially visible. This is what remains of the invitation I sent to Miss Grace. It was burned in Mrs. Okafor's fireplace before she and her daughters attended this ball, leaving Grace locked in an attic. The crowd's murmur turns angry. This is beyond mere cruelty, it's an insult to the prince himself, a violation of royal protocol, a crime against someone under royal protection. Diana tries to speak, her voice shrill. Your Highness, you don't understand. She's just an orphan. She doesn't belong at events like this with real. But her mother elbows her sharply, realizing she's making things worse. Beatrice tries to recover. Your Highness, there's been a misunderstanding. We only meant to protect Grace from embarrassment. She's not accustomed to high society. We thought it would be kinder to spare her the discomfort of attending where she wouldn't fit in. Michael's voice cuts through her excuse like a blade. Kindness. You call imprisonment kindness? You call destroying someone's invitation and burning it kindness? Mrs. Okafor, Miss Grace is an invited guest of the Crown. More than that, she is a woman of genuine character and dignity, qualities I've been seeking for months and have found in her, not in women who would commit such cruel acts out of jealousy. The word jealousy hangs in the air. Everyone understands now. These women weren't protecting Grace, they were trying to eliminate competition. Michael turns to the assembled nobles and dignitaries. Cruelty, especially to those dependent on us for care, cannot be tolerated. Mrs. Beatrice Okafor took in her orphaned niece 8 years ago and treated her as an unpaid servant. She withheld Grace's rightful inheritance from her parents' estate. Tonight, she and her daughters destroyed royal correspondence and imprisoned an invited guest to satisfy their own insecurity. This behavior is unconscionable. He pronounces judgment, his voice ringing with authority. By my power as Crown Prince of this kingdom, I hereby banish Mrs. Beatrice Okafor, Miss Diana Okafor, and Miss Ruth Okafor from Lagos State. You have 72 hours to settle your affairs and depart. Furthermore, all property and inheritance rightfully belonging to Miss Grace, which I'm told you've been withholding for 8 years, will be returned to her immediately, with interest and compensation for your theft. Royal accountants will audit your finances within the week. Guards, escort them from the palace. Beatrice falls to her knees, her expensive jewelry clattering. Your Highness, please. We have nowhere to go. This is our home. Have mercy. But Michael's expression doesn't soften. You should have thought of that before you imprisoned an innocent woman to satisfy your own jealousy. You showed Grace no mercy. Why should I show you any? Royal guards take Beatrice, Diana, and Ruth by the arms, not roughly, but firmly, and escort them toward the exit. Diana is crying. Ruth tries to maintain dignity but fails. Beatrice looks back once at Grace, her expression a mixture of hatred and disbelief that her victim has become her judge. As they're led away, the ballroom erupts in discussion. Some guests look satisfied justice served. Others look nervous, wondering what other secrets might be exposed. But most look at Grace with new respect and curiosity. Who is this woman who captured the prince's attention so completely that he would banish a prominent family for mistreating her? Michael turns back to Grace, his expression softening. I'm sorry you had to witness that. But they needed to face consequences. What they did to you was wrong, and I won't allow such cruelty to go unpunished. Grace's voice is shaky but firm. You didn't have to do all this for me. You're just someone who deserves to be valued, Michael interrupts gently. Someone who deserves dignity and respect. Someone I've been watching for months because you're exactly what I've been looking for: genuine kindness, real character, grace under pressure. That's who you are, Grace. Not an orphan. Not a servant. A woman of worth. The rest of the evening passes in a blur for Grace. Prince Michael dances only with her, talks only with her, makes it abundantly clear that his choice is made. They talk for hours about life, loss, hope, dreams. He tells her about his secret walks through Lagos, his search for someone real. She tells him about her parents, her years of servitude, her determination to maintain her humanity despite everything. They connect on a level that transcends prince and commoner, two people recognizing in each other something rare and valuable. Months pass. Prince Michael courts Grace properly, spending time with her, learning her mind and heart. He doesn't rush her despite knowing his intentions from the start. He wants her to be certain, to choose him freely, not because he's a prince but because of who he is. They walk through markets together, visit orphanages, serve meals at homeless shelters. He shows her his world, and she shows him perspectives he's never considered: what it means to be powerless, to be invisible, to survive on kindness alone. On a spring evening in the palace gardens, surrounded by blooming roses and the song of evening birds, Prince Michael kneels before Grace and produces his mother's engagement ring. Grace, From the moment I saw you give your last coins to a hungry child, I knew I'd found someone special. You taught me that true nobility is character, not birthright. You showed me what real kindness looks like. Will you marry me? Not because I'm a prince, but because we see each other truly, and what we see is worth building a life together. Grace says yes through tears of joy, not because he's royalty, but because he's the first person who truly saw her, valued her, and fought for her when she couldn't fight for herself. Their wedding becomes the celebration of the decade, an event where former servants and nobles alike gather to witness love that transcends class and circumstance. As queen, Grace establishes the Queen's Foundation for orphan children, ensuring no child feels as worthless as she once did. She creates safe houses for abuse victims. She reforms inheritance laws to protect vulnerable wards. She uses her painful past to create change for others. The people love her not for her title, but for her genuine care. Years later, a messenger brings news. Beatrice, Diana, and Ruth have been found living in poverty in a neighboring state, struggling to survive. They're begging to return. The council asks Queen Grace what should be done. She considers carefully, then says, "Let them return, but not to their former position. Let them work, as I once worked. Let them serve, as I once served. Let them learn what it means to be humble. And if they can learn genuine kindness, if they can change, perhaps there's redemption even for those who once caused such pain." Wow. This story teaches us something powerful. Your worth doesn't depend on who recognizes it. It's inherent, unchangeable, eternal. Cruelty may try to destroy your opportunities, to burn your invitations, to lock you away from your blessings. But genuine kindness, genuine character, will always be seen by those who matter. Smash that like button and subscribe to Folktales by Inaya. Drop a comment telling me, what lesson from Grace's story will you carry with you? Thank you for being part of this journey. Turn on all notifications because we have more powerful stories coming. Remember to treat people with kindness. Stand up against injustice. God bless you all.